Hey guys, tonight we're traveling somewhere warm. Not summer on your balcony warm, but dry sand in your shoes. Papyrus sticks to your elbow. Did I just hear a jackal? Kind of warm. You're somewhere between a temple and a small hut made of sun-baked mud brick. It's night. The air is still clinging to the heat of the day, and just beyond the flickering oil lamps is a shrine with a crocodile, a dead one, wrapped in linen, covered in prayers. And for some reason, someone's writing it a letter. You're not dreaming. Well, you're about to be. But for now, you're standing under the stars in ancient Egypt, watching as a man, skin leathery from the sun, hunched from too many years grinding pigment, carefully inscribes a message with a reed pen. It's not for his neighbor. It's not even for a living person. He's writing to the gods, to the dead, specifically to the dead crocodile that once lived in this very temple. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here, and drop a comment telling me where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're moving slowly. The air smells faintly of incense, bittersweet, like burned cinnamon and river reeds. The temple is old, even by ancient standards. Its stone walls are cool to the touch, but they hum with the ghost heat of thousands of sunrises. You pass a carving of Sobek, the crocodile-headed god of fertility, protection, and weirdly enough, military strength. His smile is not comforting. Someone whispers behind you, a priest maybe, or just your imagination. You keep walking. Up ahead there's a platform. It's low, square, and made of polished limestone. On it rests the mummy of a crocodile, longer than a grown man, bound tightly in linen wrappings. The bandages are stained with age but still neat, like someone came to tidy them recently. Around it lie dozens of papyrus scrolls, piled like unread emails. This is where the letters come. From people like you. People with problems, hopes, anxieties. They write their messages on papyrus, seal them with whatever tiny offering they can afford. A bit of bread, a sliver of copper, even just a dried date. And leave them here for the god to read. You hear a cough, not yours. Someone else enters. He's young, maybe your age, maybe younger. His robe is frayed, but he walks like someone with a purpose. He kneels beside the crocodile mummy. From a small satchel, he draws out a rolled-up papyrus. His hands tremble, not with fear, but fatigue. You recognize the look. It's the same face people make when they finally decide to send that long overdue message at 2 a.m. He unrolls it, reads aloud softly. Divine Sobek. My brother steals from me. He hides grain in his cellar. He lies to our mother. I have done nothing wrong, and yet I am hungry. Please help me. A beat of silence. Then, as if unsure, he adds, I also saw him kick a goat. He places the scroll beside the others, bows his head, then leaves. You think it's petty, it's strange, but it's also familiar, like scribbling in a diary or sending a tweet into the void. People needed to be heard, even if only by a god who hasn't blinked in 1,000 years. And this wasn't a rare thing. In fact, it was practically routine. Across Egypt, but especially in places like Fayum, home to the great Crocodilopolis, temples dedicated to Sobek housed mummified crocodiles who acted as divine messengers. You didn't just pray to Sobek, you wrote to him directly, through the holy reptile. Sometimes people asked for health, sometimes for justice, occasionally for romance. Dear Sobek, I saw her fetching water yesterday. She looked at me. Was it a sign? The priest rarely responded, but that didn't matter. The act of writing was the point. It was proof that you tried, that your voice, however small, had made it into the afterlife's inbox. You walk around the platform slowly, watching the candlelight dance across the scrolls. Some are torn, some have melted wax seals. One has what looks like a drawing, maybe a sad attempt at depicting a cow or a dog. Hard to say, but all of them share one thing: desperation. A kind of sacred boredom, born not from laziness, but from too many days with too many things going wrong. You don't write to a dead crocodile unless the living have already disappointed you. A bat flutters past overhead. You duck instinctively, even though you know it's harmless. The priest in the corner doesn't flinch. He's seen this before. You sit on a worn step, let your hand rest on the warm stone. It feels like it's breathing. Slow, steady, old. Like the temple itself is dreaming. Maybe it is. You close your eyes. For a moment you imagine writing your own letter. Dear Sobek, you think, I'm tired. The The world is loud, people expect too much, and sometimes I don't even know what I'm supposed to be praying for. But I hope something changes. You'd never actually send it, but still, it feels better to have thought it. A gentle wind snakes through the open corridor. Somewhere behind you, a scribe sharpens his reed pen. The sound is soft, rhythmic, like the ticking of a very patient clock. And for now, nothing moves. Just you, the crocodile, and a stack of ancient messages no one was ever supposed to answer. The scribe doesn't notice you watching him. Or maybe he does, and simply doesn't care. He's older than the young man from before, his shoulders stooped, the back of his head glistening faintly with oil under the lamplight. He wears a simple linen kilt and has ink stains on 3 fingers of his left hand. They never come off, those stains. You wonder if he's proud of them. He pulls out a fresh strip of papyrus, flattening it carefully with the heel of his palm. You hear the faint creak of fibers. It's strangely satisfying. Then he reaches into a small jar, nothing fancy, just clay, and dips the tip of his reed pen into thick black ink. The ink clings to the nib like syrup made from soot, water, and, depending on the recipe, crushed insects or burnt bones. Tastes terrible, probably. Smells worse. He begins to write, slowly, methodically, as though each word must pass through some internal gate of judgment before landing on the page. You inch closer, curious. Over his shoulder you see the first few lines form. To the great Sobek, whose teeth are sharper than injustice, whose eyes see beneath the lies of men. There's poetry to it. You weren't expecting that. This isn't just someone venting. This is practiced, ritualized, a sacred form of customer service complaint addressed to the divine. The letter continues, detailing a dispute between 2 brothers over land boundaries. Apparently, one moved a stone marker 3 fingers to the left. Technically not illegal, but deeply annoying. There's mention of a missing donkey, a cousin who took sides, and someone stealing a pomegranate. It's a whole saga. The man writing never lifts his eyes. His pen scratches steadily like the whisper of a mouse dragging its tail across stone. You wonder how many of these letters he's written. Dozens. Hundreds. Does he remember each one, or do they blur together like waves on the Nile? He pauses, reaches for a second jar, red ink this time. Rare, expensive. It's used sparingly, often to emphasize names or endings. He dots a phrase with it, let your justice come quickly, O devourer of deceit. Then he exhales, the kind of breath someone releases after holding in a truth for far too long. Next to him, a pile of completed letters rests in a shallow basket, some still wet. One curls at the edges like it's trying to whisper its secrets to the air. You get the sense that these aren't just prayers, they're evidence, a backup drive for the soul. If Sobek truly sees all, these letters are the receipts. You drift away from the scribe, drawn by something else. A rectangular recess in the wall, just beneath a faded carving of a crocodile. It's small, about the size of a bread loaf, and lined with smooth limestone. There are smudges of ash around it and a faint scent of burned herbs. This is the mailbox. No, really, this is where the letters go. You watch as someone approaches quietly, an older woman with sun-wrinkled hands and eyes like melted bronze. She places her scroll inside the niche, then lays a single blue bead on top. Her lips move silently, then she touches her forehead to the wall and walks away. The scroll is simple, no ribbon, no wax, just a plea in ink. Later, a temple assistant will come, gather it, and place it beside the mummy crocodile, or if the letter is deemed unworthy, burn it in a separate fire meant for the forgotten. And here's where it gets strange. Some people, many in fact, believed that the crocodile god would read these letters. Not metaphorically, not symbolically, literally. That the spirit of Sobek, or perhaps the soul of the mummified creature itself, could perceive, process, and act upon the written word. You lean back against the wall and smile. It's ridiculous, but also not that different from hoping your phone buzzes after you text someone thinking of you. The need to be acknowledged. Timeless. There are reports written in equally careful hands describing how letters were answered. Dreams, sudden floods, a snake found dead on a doorstep after someone asked for protection, a missing lamb returned without a scratch. Skeptics scoffed, of course, but as with all faith, it didn't really matter what anyone else thought. Still, some historians argue about whether these letters were ever meant to be read by anything at all. Perhaps they were catharsis. Perhaps they were performance. Maybe the gods didn't have to read them, the act of writing was enough. But other scholars point to consistency, the format, the titles, the phrasing. Too specific to be random, too formal to be mere venting. They say it was a system, a divine postal service. And the crocodile, he was the mailbox, the messenger, and the sorting center all in one. The air grows cooler. The oil lamps flicker lower. Somewhere a priest chants something soft and circular. It might be a prayer or just a lullaby for the gods. You can't tell. Your eyes follow a moth as it dances near the lamplight, casting faint shadows like hieroglyphs across the walls. A soft knock breaks the silence. It's not a door. It's someone gently tapping a scroll against the stone as though asking permission before placing it down. You watch a girl, barefoot with braided hair and a look of nervous focus, slide her letter into the offering niche. She waits, just waits, maybe for a sign, a noise, anything. But the temple remains quiet. The crocodile does not stir. After a moment she exhales and walks away. You want to ask her what she wrote, but you already know it was probably something simple, something big in her world, even if small in the cosmic scale of gods and floods and dynasties. Something like, please let my brother come home, or don't let my mother's cough turn worse, or maybe even, tell the boy from the grain market I like him. These letters are tiny time capsules, each one a whisper from a person who lived, hoped, and feared, just like you. And tonight, they lie here together, gathering dust and waiting as if someday the answers might arrive. A flicker of wind passes through the hallway. The scrolls rustle like dry leaves. The crocodile sleeps on. The crocodile's eyes are closed, of course, stitched shut long ago with flaxen thread and reverence, but in the flickering lamplight you can almost imagine them twitching, just slightly, like something behind them still sees. You know better. But also, do you? You've now spent enough time in this dim corridor of stone and dust that it feels strangely normal, like a library that forgot it was a temple, or a waiting room with no receptionist, only letters. Letters to a god with scales. There's movement to your left. A priest in deep blue linen steps in quietly, as if afraid to disturb the stillness. He carries a scroll tied with gold thread and a shallow clay bowl. The thread is rare. The bowl is cracked. He kneels before the crocodile's platform and begins to read. Softly. His voice is reedy, almost musical. Great Sobek, whose jaws judge men, and whose breath cools the hearts of the just. We bring you this request, that you may clear the path of injustice and bring light to the work of the innocent. Then he pours something into the bowl. Oil, water, wine. You catch the scent, sour and old, with notes of fig, an offering. It pools quietly, and then he sets the bowl beside the crocodile's mouth. The scroll follows, laid respectfully, like it could bite back if angered. This one you realize isn't a personal letter, it's from a group, maybe a guild, a community. You've seen these too, letters written on behalf of entire villages during times of famine, plague, or political chaos. And Egypt had its share of chaos. Sure, the pyramids are pretty, but behind every polished stone was a tax, a quarrel, a missing shipment of papyrus, a scribe too drunk on date beer to finish inventory. One scroll found centuries later in a similar temple included a complaint about, believe it or not, a missing goose. Not just any goose, a sacred goose. Apparently, it went missing right before a festival and the village blamed a rival priest. The letter begged Sobek to reveal the truth in a dream, or by striking the thief with chronic foot pain. You think, petty, yes, divine justice, maybe. The priest finishes his chant and stands. He bows to the crocodile deep and slow, then retreats without a sound. You sit with the silence. A warm silence, old and filled with too many voices to be empty. You can feel the walls breathing again. Maybe it's your imagination. Maybe it's that wine. Your gaze drifts back to the scroll pile. One is unraveling, just slightly. You can see the beginning of a line. It reads, I have not slept well in 3 nights. I believe it is my neighbor's curse. It's funny how some things never change. Today we Google how to lift a curse, or binge crime documentaries to help us sleep. Back then, you just wrote to a dead crocodile, and really, it wasn't a bad system. The temples were quiet, the scribes were sworn to secrecy, and no one judged you because everyone at some point had something too heavy to carry alone. You rise and walk slowly past another alcove, smaller this time. Inside are dried flowers, burnt offerings, and, surprisingly, a clay figurine shaped like a fish. Someone went through the trouble of sculpting and painting it. Red and blue. Crude but charming. Below it, etched into the stone, is a simple sentence. For my brother, who drowned, may he swim in eternal waters. Your chest tightens a little. You weren't expecting to feel this much, but here it is. Grief, floating quietly beside reverence. You step back, careful not to disturb anything. The temple seems to sigh. Farther down the hall, another scribe is whispering to himself while folding a scroll. His lamp is nearly out, the flame just a faint glow clinging to the wick. He's muttering the words aloud as he writes them, perhaps out of habit, perhaps to commit them to memory. Let this plea pass safely to your ears, O scale-bearer of the river. You hear more. Complaints about stolen wheat, dishonest laborers, a merchant who waters the beer more than the Nile in flood season. Ouch. Some scrolls are passionate, others are measured and polite. Perhaps written by someone who still believed decorum could impress a god. There's even one tucked between two stones that simply says, I miss my daughter. No requests, no ritual, just a message. These letters form a strange sort of collective diary. Not one voice, but thousands whispering the same thing. Please see me. Please help. It's almost comforting. You're not alone in your smallness. Outside the temple, you can hear distant voices. Maybe a market closing, maybe just night creatures. The desert cools quickly, and the thick stone walls keep in the warmth for a little longer. You imagine sleeping here against the wall near the Crocodiles' shrine. Would you dream more vividly? Would Sobek visit you, jaws dripping with stars, to whisper back an answer? Or would he stay silent like most gods, letting the wind and time do the talking? You feel the weight of the place now. It's not heavy, just present. Like you're sitting in the center of something ancient and patient. A waiting room between worlds, and all around you, paper, pigment, prayer. Small hands clutching big hopes. You wonder what you'd write if given the tools. Maybe nothing, maybe everything, maybe you already have. You don't remember standing up, but now you're walking again. Feet brushing over sand that's blown in from the desert, making soft whisper sounds beneath your steps. The hall curves slightly to the left. Everything in this temple feels like it curves. Time, memory, and the faint scent of myrrh wafting from somewhere unseen. And there it is again. A platform. But this one is different. No mummy lies here. Instead, resting in a carved alabaster cradle is a gilded box about the length of your forearm. You almost miss it at first. Its shimmer dulled by the dust of ages. A fine gold leaf curls at the edge like a forgotten petal. Inside that box, a crocodile heart, or what's left of one. You're not supposed to know that, but you do. Somehow. The heart was removed before mummification, wrapped separately, anointed with oil and sealed here. Close but distinct. Symbolic. Practical. Possibly both. You think of how people do that even now. Take the most tender part of something and hide it away in its own container. A drawer, a box, a private playlist named Don't Touch This. Ancient Egyptians did it too, except they called it devotion. You hear a small voice, not imaginary. This time it's real. A boy, no older than 10, is kneeling beside the box with a reed scroll in one hand and a chunk of dried bread in the other. He places the bread carefully beside the box, as if worried it might offend. Then he begins to read. Sobek, my mother is ill. The priest says it is not serious, but she coughs like thunder. I have brought you this bread. Please eat it in your dreams and help her in hers. He finishes, waits, then nods solemnly, like a transaction has taken place. You don't move, not because you're hiding, but because you don't want to break whatever fragile thing just happened. The boy bows, stands, then walks past you without noticing. His eyes are wet, but his hands are steady. That's when you notice something else. Etched faintly on the wall beside the box, hidden behind centuries of soot and neglect, are tiny drawings. Crocodiles, dozens of them, some realistic, others abstract, almost cartoonish. Some have halos, some wear what look like crowns. One is just smiling. It's oddly comforting. Like the people who came here didn't just fear Sobek, they also tried to understand him. To soften the sharp-toothed god into something they could talk to, bargain with, blame. The sound of scratching distracts you. Another scribe, this one much older, with a voice like sand being poured through his arguing with himself as he copies a letter. You catch fragments. No, that's not the proper invocation. Start again. Sobek, you who swim in time and truth. Yes, better. He sighs, then sneezes. The scroll flutters slightly. You step closer and read the opening line upside down. To Sobek, the sharp-toothed, the floodbringer, lord of the crocodiles, we give thanks. It's not a request, it's a thank you letter. That's rare. You listen. The old scribe murmurs the rest. For returning the ox, for sending rain to our fields, for protecting my wife during the fire. May your jaws stay strong and your enemies slippery. You smile. There's something beautiful about this moment, this fragile old man thanking a god with the head of a river beast. No demand, no bargaining, just gratitude, delivered in ink. The scribe reaches into a pouch and places something next to the scroll. You squint. A carved ivory tooth, shaped like a crocodile fang. He whispers something unintelligible and bows his head over the scroll as if letting it cool. You step away, giving him space. The room is full of these strange offerings. Beads, feathers, bits of bone polished by river water. There's even a small linen pouch filled with what you suspect is hair. Whose? Better not to ask. Historians often debate these letters. You've heard them. The arguments. Some say it was performance, ritual, nothing more. That the people didn't really believe the crocodile was reading their words, just performing piety. Others say no, the people meant these things. Believed, deeply, that Sobek heard, understood, and maybe even intervened. And some, your favorite kind, say it didn't matter either way. That belief was a bridge, half real, half metaphor, and the crossing itself was the point. That the letter was the therapy, the prayer, the conversation. You turn and glance once more at the heart box. It hasn't moved, but somehow it feels warmer, like it knows. You walk on. There's another hall ahead, this one darker, quieter. The light from your lamp seems to hesitate at the threshold. You enter anyway. Inside, the air is thicker, still, like a held breath. You follow the wall, fingertips trailing along cool stone. Here the carvings are older, rougher. One depicts a giant crocodile rising from a flood, jaws open with people reaching up, not in fear, but reverence. Another shows seated like a king, papyrus scrolls piled at his feet. Not weapons, not gold, just paper and ink. A final carving shows something strange, a human, seated beside Sobek writing with one hand while the other feeds him grapes. Is it metaphor, a dream, a myth? You blink, you're alone now, truly alone. The scribes have gone, the prayers are still. You sit, back against the stone, legs folded. The temple hums, low and steady. Above you in the faintest of breezes, something stirs. A scroll shifts, just slightly, enough to sound like a sigh. You close your eyes and let the quiet carry you. And for a moment you think you hear it, a voice, low, deep, a ripple through water, and then it's gone. You open your eyes, but nothing has changed. The crocodile doesn't move. The scrolls don't shuffle again. And yet that sound, faint and watery like a stone dropped gently into a calm river, still echoes somewhere in the back of your thoughts. You stand slowly, stretch. Your back cracks in a way that makes you wonder if you've been sitting for minutes or hours. Time in this temple doesn't behave like time elsewhere. It slows down, uncoils, lays itself out like linen strips around a sacred beast. As you step deeper into the corridor, you pass a low stone arch. There's a soft glow inside, just enough light to draw your eye like the warm flicker of a fridge left open in a dark kitchen. Inside, the room is small, intimate. The walls are close, carved not with images but with words, rows upon rows of etched hieroglyphs, like wallpaper made of stories. Most are faded. A few glint faintly, as if some stubborn scribe refused to let his work go quietly into history. On a central pedestal lies a single scroll, larger than the others, its papyrus thicker, the ink darker and more stubborn, like someone had to press hard to get the words to stay. You approach slowly. The letter is older than the others, maybe older than the temple itself. It begins simply, to Sobek, guardian of the scales, whose breath cools the riverbanks at night. It tells the story of a land dispute between two brothers. The writer claims the elder brother stole more than land. He stole dignity. It's filled with bitter metaphors. He eats my grain and leaves me chaff. He rides my ox and tells the village it limps. It's angry, honest, and then it takes a turn. The writer says he placed a curse on his brother. Not a metaphorical curse, a real one, with words spoken at midnight and a doll made of mud, and a needle heated over incense. And now he's writing to Sobek, not to ask for justice but to confess. I spoke in heat, I wished for rot in his wheat. But now I fear what I've set into motion. If he dies, will his spirit curse me in return? It ends abruptly like someone stopped mid-thought or mid-breath. You step back from the scroll. Sometimes people didn't write for help. They wrote out of fear, or guilt, or panic. The temples weren't just spiritual post offices. They were emotional safes. A place to store the worst parts of yourself when you couldn't carry them anymore. You leave the room, ducking under the low arch again. Outside, the temple has grown quieter still, as if even the walls are asleep. You walk down a side corridor where the walls are less decorated, more practical. You find a row of shallow niches, each with a scroll tied in colored string, blue, red, ochre, white. Some have tiny charms pinned beside them, a shell, a copper ring, a seed. And on the wall, someone has carved 7 symbols. You recognize them. They spell for reconsideration. This was the second chance shelf. Letters placed here weren't rejected outright. They were paused, held. Maybe the offering was too small, maybe the tone too demanding, maybe the gods just weren't in the mood that day. You pick up one scroll. It's addressed in larger than average writing, as if the writer believed size could command divine attention. To Sobek, they say my crops failed because I drank during the harvest festival. That is only partly true. Honesty, bold strategy. The writer goes on to describe a chaotic festival, a drunken stumble, and an unfortunate incident involving a cart full of cucumbers. You chuckle. Then it turns. He writes about his daughter, how she left to live with her mother's family and hasn't returned. He doesn't know if she's sick, or married, or dead. I miss her. I know I wasn't a good father. But if you see her in your dreams, tell her the cucumbers were funny. You roll the scroll gently back up and place it carefully where you found it. That's the thing about these letters. They're rarely just about what they say they're about. Theft is about betrayal. Illness is about fear. Even the ones asking for romance are usually asking for something deeper. Not just love, but proof that they are still lovable. You pause by another offering niche. This one is deeper. Lined with something dark. Charcoal, maybe. It smells faintly of ash and aloe. Inside lies a sealed jar, stoppered with wax. Beside it, a papyrus label tied with twine. You lean in. The writing is childlike, uneven. To Sobek, please protect what's in this jar. It is my only wish. You don't know what's in the jar. You don't need to. What matters is that someone believed putting it here meant something. That the act of sealing it and offering it would change the world. Just a little. And maybe it did. You step back and glance down the corridor where light fades into shadow. More rooms wait, more scrolls, more voices, and somewhere in the dark, another crocodile, or maybe the same one. You can't help but wonder, what would Sobek make of all this? Did he ever read the letters? Did he ever answer? Or did he just, unmoving, as generations knelt and whispered their secrets into the silence? Maybe that was enough, to watch, to witness, to be the wall that absorbed what no one else would. The temple breathes around you, and just before you leave this corridor, you notice one last scroll, tucked behind a loose stone nearly buried in dust. You gently pull it free. It reads, I write this with no expectation. I just wanted someone to know I was here. You fold it back slowly, carefully, and return it to its hiding place. Then you walk on. You're starting to notice something. The deeper you go into the temple, the quieter it gets. But it's not an empty kind of quiet. It's the hush of a place listening, like every stone is leaning in a little closer, eager to catch the next secret, the next confession scratched in ink by trembling fingers. The corridor narrows again, then widens into a circular chamber, half sunken into the ground. You step down carefully. The stones are worn smooth, like too many bare feet have asked too many questions here. At the center of the chamber is a stone basin, low and wide, filled with water so still it looks solid. At first you think it's decorative, maybe symbolic, but then you spot the thin rim of soot around the edge. Burn marks. This was a place for rituals, a place where letters, perhaps the ones too dangerous to keep, were read aloud and burned. You walk closer. Scattered around the basin are the remains of half-burned scrolls. You lean down. One is still legible, though curled like a sleeping animal. You can just make out the words, I lied. But only because I was afraid. That's all it says. It hits harder than it should. You sit on the rim of the basin. The stone is cool beneath you, but the air is thick, heavy with the weight of unspoken things. In ancient times, this room would have been full of smoke, soft plumes of it rising into the air like whispers carried upward. People came here when they couldn't risk their words being seen by other eyes, when their confessions were too sharp, too dangerous, too real. They believed the smoke carried messages faster, that it bypassed temple bureaucracy and shot straight into the gods' ears. And, honestly, that tracks. Sometimes you don't want your thoughts kept, you just want them gone. There's a crack in the floor near the basin's edge. Something has been stuffed inside it. Cloth, maybe. No, papyrus. Old, discolored. You pull it free gently. It crumbles a little, but enough remains to read. My husband dreams of drowning. I do not tell him. I pray it is not a warning. You put it back. Some letters were never meant to be read. You rise and wander toward an alcove off the main chamber. There's a stack of scrolls arranged almost like a library, tied in bundles with strips of linen, each labeled with a symbol. A fish, a star, a foot, a broken cart. Filing systems, ancient style. You pick one at random. The fish bundle. Inside, dozens of prayers from fishermen. Their handwriting varies, some neat and square, others slanted and rushed. You scan through them. One writes, "The river yields nothing. Please stir its belly, Sobek." Another, "My net was stolen. I suspect Hemtep. May his sandals dissolve." And another, more poetic than the rest, "If I drown, let the crocodiles know I was always respectful." You return the scrolls to their bundle, carefully, like tucking in sleeping thoughts. Beside it, the broken cart bundle. You grin before opening it. Something about it feels promising. Sure enough, the first letter begins, "I warned my cousin not to put 4 jars on one axle. Now the jars are gone, the axle is gone, and the cousin is hiding." The tone is half complaint, half storytelling. You can feel the frustration through the ancient ink, but there's also a strange acceptance. Like, the writer knows life will never not be messy. You flip through more. A wheel cracked on the festival road. I blame a goat, but I need the truth. If Sobek has any patience left, please send someone who knows how to repair a cart, or give me the wisdom to walk. These aren't just letters. They're little windows, snapshots of days when things went wrong in small, very human ways. A spilled jar, a bent wheel, a goat with bad intentions, and people brought those things here to a god with teeth and claws. You lean against the wall, taking it all in, the ridiculousness and the rawness, side by side. People didn't filter themselves here, they didn't curate their pain. They came messy, unedited. And Sobek, in his eternal stillness, accepted it all. That's the strange magic of this place. It's not a temple of answers. It's a temple of acknowledgement, of being seen, or at least feeling like you are. You step away from the bundles, back toward the basin. The surface of the water is still unbroken, a perfect mirror. For a moment you consider dropping in your own message. Not a scroll, just a thought. But what would you say? Maybe nothing fancy, maybe just, "I'm doing my best." You smile, you imagine the smoke curling upward, carrying your words into the vaulted silence. No lightning strikes, no godly voice rumbles from the ceiling, but still something inside you eases, unknots. You breathe out and walk on. You take a turn into a narrower corridor, this one low-ceilinged, quieter if that's even possible. You have to duck slightly as you move through, like you're being invited to shrink a little. Not just physically, but emotionally. Like whatever is ahead wants you humbled, a little smaller, a little quieter. It's cooler here. Not from wind, but from stone. So much stone above your head, it feels like time itself is pressing gently on your scalp. You pass by small shrines recessed into the walls, each barely big enough for a few offerings and maybe one scroll. Some hold nothing but dust. Others are more recent, though recent here could mean anything from 2 to 3 centuries ago. And then you see it. The crocodile. Not a mummy this time. A statue. Carved entirely of black basalt, low to the ground, jaw open in a permanent, silent warning. It's covered in inscriptions, words etched with care, almost lovingly, as if each chisel stroke was a tiny prayer. Offerings are piled around its base, bits of cloth, shaped beads, tiny crude carvings of boats and fish. One flower, dried completely yet still perfectly shaped. Someone placed it here knowing it wouldn't survive. And it has anyway. You kneel instinctively, not because you think you should, but because the air around this statue seems to ask you to. Not demand, just suggest. The base of the statue bears one phrase repeated over and over: "He who listens through stone." You let your fingers drift across the carved letters. They're shallow, but deep enough to outlast a dozen lifetimes. Sobek didn't just protect, he heard, or at least people believed he did. The god has a wall of secrets, a riverbed for sorrow. And then you spot something unusual. Wedged between the base and the wall, carefully hidden, is a scroll bound with two different strings. One red, one green. That's not typical. You've seen red, you've seen green, but not both. You pull it free. The parchment is thicker than usual, worn smooth where it was held and reheld like someone carried it around for days before finally letting it go. You unroll it gently. To Sobek, Lord of the Middle Way, it begins, already different. They say the gods do not meddle, but I believe they linger. Watch, wait, and sometimes if we are careful, they answer in the form of silence. Your eyes slow down. I do not ask for revenge, I ask for understanding. My sister is gone. She walked into the marsh and did not return. We have no body, no proof, only wreaths and echoes, and the sound of her name in the wind. You exhale through your nose softly. They say it was her choice, but what does that mean, Sobek? To choose to leave, to step into still water and not come out again. Is it still a choice if no one listened to her before she vanished? The scroll ends with a line that's part prayer, part dare. If you do not answer, at least make the silence louder. You roll it back up, hands a little tighter now. This wasn't a complaint, it wasn't even a request. It was a challenge. The scroll feels warm, or maybe that's you. You place it carefully back where it was. For the first time since entering this place, you notice that you're being watched, not by people, not even by statues, but by your own thoughts, like the walls are holding up a mirror made of memory. What would you write if no one else ever read it? What would you say if you knew the only reply would be the absence of one? You rise and begin to walk again. Further down the corridor, the air changes again. Not cooler, drier, almost chalky. And the light shifts to narrowing into gold slats filtered through high, thin windows. You see particles floating in it, dust, incense ash, or just time. This room is long and thin, lined with clay jars sealed with wax and linen. Each one is marked with a symbol, some familiar, some not. You instinctively know what they are. Responses, or at least interpretations of them. A small plaque near the entrance reads simply, Dream Records. You step up to the first jar and gently lift the lid. Inside, on tightly rolled scrolls, are descriptions of visions. Not prayers, not confessions. Dreams. You pull one out. The river rose to the ceiling. I stood in the temple. The crocodile opened its mouth and spoke in my voice. I woke with fish bones in my hand. Another. My brother walked across a field of teeth. Each tooth was labeled with a name. Mine was missing. You read a third. This one's shorter. I was the river. Everything passed through me. I felt nothing. I woke dry. You pause. Some of these are beautiful. Some disturbing. All very human. It seems that in the silence that followed prayer, people found meaning in dreams or put it there. Some claimed dreams were how Sobek responded. Others said it was just the mind echoing against itself. But either way, people wrote them down. They mattered. Mattered. You pick up one more. In my dreams, Sobek was not a god. He was a man who listened. He said nothing. But I woke with no fear. You return it gently, and for a moment, you wonder if the act of writing the dream made it real. Or if maybe, just maybe, the writing was the dream. You stand in the fading light, surrounded by jars of sleeping thoughts, and you understand, maybe more than ever, what this temple really is. It's not a shrine. It's not even a mailbox. It's a memory, one long, breathless memory of people trying, across centuries, to speak to something bigger than themselves, to write something down that wouldn't vanish. And now, here you are, reading, listening, witnessing. You walk on. The hallway curves again. Of course it does. This whole temple seems allergic to straight lines. Everything bends gently, endlessly, like it's trying to guide you somewhere but doesn't want to be obvious about it, like a tour guide who doesn't want to ruin the ending. Your footsteps sound different here. The floor has changed, no longer the solid, worn stone of the main chambers, but something softer. Sand, maybe, or compacted earth. You move more quietly now, like even the ground has decided to whisper. The walls are bare, no carvings, no color, just smooth, cool stone. It's unsettling at first, like being in a room with no furniture, but you realize it's meant to make you focus, to strip away the noise. Then you notice the doorway ahead. It's small, narrower than any before, just tall enough for you to pass through without ducking. You hesitate, just for a second, then you enter. This is the scribe's room. It's unmistakable. Low shelves line every wall, packed with bundles of scrolls tied in string. The room smells like dust, ink, and something sharp you can't place, like dried lemon or regret. A desk sits in the center, carved from a single block of dark wood, scarred with years of use. On it, a reed pen, a jar of black ink, a small bowl of sand for blotting, and a carefully folded cloth stained with centuries of fingerprints. And a scroll, half written. You walk around the desk slowly, reverently. This isn't just a workspace, it's a sanctuary within a sanctuary. Here, the act of writing wasn't just communication, it was devotion. Each word was a tether between the human and the divine. You lean in and read the unfinished scroll. Sobek, you know I have not written in some time. I feared I had nothing left to ask. But today, and then it stops. Just a jagged line of ink, frozen mid-thought. You wonder what happened. Did the scribe die, get interrupted, change his mind? Or did the answer come before he could finish? You sit. The chair creaks faintly under your weight. You pick up the reed pen, feel the worn grooves where fingers once held it tight. Dip it gently in the ink. You almost write something, just out of instinct, but you stop. This desk doesn't need new words. It's saturated with them already. You notice a panel behind the desk, slightly ajar, a secret cupboard. You open it. Inside are failed letters. That's what the small label carved into the wood says, failed. You pull one out. I came here angry. I leave no wiser. If you are real Sobek, why do I feel smaller than when I arrived? Another, my son is dead. I was told you protect, so why not him? Another, just one line. This is my third letter. I am running out of ways to ask. You sit back. These aren't failed. They're just raw, unresolved. The kind of letters written when hope frays, but people haven't yet given up. If anything, they're the most honest of all. And now you see the real purpose of this room. It wasn't where the good letters were written. It was where all letters came to be. Good, bad, grateful, bitter. Letters born from joy. Letters scribbled in grief. Some surely burned, some placed by crocodile shrines. But all began here, with a pen, some ink, and the heavy silence between wanting and believing. You rise and place the scroll back on the desk, gently. And as you do, you hear it. A rustle. You freeze. Not the wind, not footsteps. Paper. You turn. There's no one in the doorway, but one scroll on the shelf has fallen slightly forward, its edge peeking out like a bookmark that's been waiting patiently. You walk over and lift it out. It's thicker than usual. The papyrus is layered like it's been edited and rewritten. The opening line makes you pause. To whoever finds this scroll, I wrote it for you, not Sobek. You blink. Go on. If you are reading this, I failed to finish what I came here to do. I wanted to ask the gods to change something, to undo something, to give me something back, but I couldn't decide which was more important, forgiveness or forgetting. You feel a lump rise in your throat, so instead I'm leaving this, a note to a stranger, a confranger, a confession without a name, because maybe, just maybe, knowing that I was here is enough. And if you're here too, maybe we're both still trying. That's all. No name, no signature. Just that. You roll it back slowly, carefully, as if it might tear from too much feeling. Then you place it back, letting it rest in the dark once more. The air feels heavier now, but not in a bad way. You've stepped into the part of the temple no one talks about, the part where the scribes weren't just transcribers. They were surgeons, counselors, magicians. They didn't just copy thoughts. They tried to hold them, shape them, save them. And when they couldn't, they still wrote anyway. You step away from the desk, casting one last look at the unfinished scroll. Then you move to the door. Behind you, the quiet settles again. The pen stays in its jar. The desk waits. The letters breathe. You step out of the room and continue down the corridor. Still curved, still ancient, but somehow, now, more alive. The corridor ahead is darker, not just in shadow, but in mood. You feel it before you even take another step. The air grows heavier, thicker, like breathing through memory. This is where the letters change. They don't ask for rain here, or justice, or romance. They ask for absolution. You notice the walls are no longer smooth. They're rough, unfinished, but not in a careless way. More like something interrupted the builders. Or perhaps they intended it this way, to remind you that not every story is polished. You follow a low groove in the stone floor, almost like a track, guiding your steps forward, and then you see them. Shelves. Long, low, uneven shelves, stacked with scrolls not in bundles but spread out individually, spaced like gravestones, each one labeled with the same small stamped symbol. You don't recognize it immediately, but something about it makes you hesitate before touching anything. It's the kind of mark you feel in your stomach before you understand it with your eyes. You kneel beside one of the scrolls and slowly unravel it. The first line reads, "I did something I cannot tell anyone, so I am telling you." You pause. There it is. Confession. These weren't letters to Sobek the Protector or Sobek the Avenger. These were letters to Sobek the Knower, the god who doesn't flinch. You keep reading. It was not my intention, but my hands did it. And now my nights are loud. I write this not to be forgiven, but so that the silence stops looking at me. You glance around the chamber. Suddenly the dimness feels more intimate, less oppressive. These people weren't hiding. They were revealing themselves in the only place that felt safe. You reach for another. I took something from the dead. Not out of greed. I just wanted to feel like I could change my story. I have returned it, but the theft still lives in me. And another. She asked me not to speak her name. I did. I broke her trust. I say her name now in my sleep, hoping she hears me and spits. It goes on. Scroll after scroll, not melodramatic, not performative, just deeply painfully human. And it hits you. This was the first therapy room. Not couches and clocks, not affirmations and scented candles, just ink, silence, and the hope that something, anything, might be listening. These letters weren't just written in despair. Some were written in triumph. After the confession, after the storm, you find one like that. I have carried the guilt for 3 years, but today I told her. She looked at me and did not leave. You sit for a while, just reading. There's no pattern. Some scrolls are written in shaky amateur hands, others in the precise script of a trained scribe. Act 1 scroll is just a smear of ink and a symbol. Ha! No words, just the act. Eventually you reach the far wall. Carved into it, softly like a secret, is a line. A burden written is a burden halved, and underneath it a shelf. Unlike the others, it's empty, a blank place, waiting. You look at it, then at your hands. You imagine picking up a pen. Imagine writing something you've never told anyone, not even yourself. Something you wouldn't speak out loud but might whisper onto paper if you knew no one would ever read it, but that it would be heard. You imagine placing it here, letting the stone keep it, not destroy it, not forgive it, just hold it. You breathe slowly, deeply, and you understand now this chamber wasn't about changing the past, it was about surviving it. You rise, carefully, respectfully, and step away. The darkness doesn't recede, but it no longer feels like it's pressing in. If anything, it feels like it's lifting, as if the room is letting you go because you stayed long enough to understand. You exit back into the curved corridor. Your shoulders feel lighter, your footsteps softer, and somewhere in the distance, just faint enough to doubt, you think you hear the sound of papyrus unfolding itself. The corridor ahead seems to shimmer, not with light, but with the suggestion of movement, like heat rising from desert sand, or the flicker of memory just before it slips away. You step into it. It takes a moment to realize where you are. The ceiling has lifted, the walls are wider now, the floor slopes gently downward as though you're descending into something. Not physically, emotionally. This part of the temple is quieter than quiet. The silence has layers. You feel like you're walking between breaths. Then you see them. The letters of regret. They line the walls here, not tucked into shelves or hidden behind stone, but displayed openly behind thin sheets of polished alabaster. Faintly illuminated from behind by shafts of soft light, they glow like ghosts preserved in amber. Each one is set alone, framed like a painting. You approach the first. Its ink is faded, but still legible. To Sobek, I should not have waited until my father died to forgive him. I see him now in dreams, and he doesn't look angry, just tired. You don't realize you've stopped breathing until the end of the line. You move to the next one. I told her I'd come back. I didn't. I don't know if she waited a day or a year, but I never returned, and she never wrote again. It's strange how regret isn't loud. It's not red-faced or dramatic. It's quiet, slow, wears soft shoes. It lives in the echo of things not done, not said. These letters are like footprints in ash. You continue walking. Some regrets are small, almost laughably so, like this one. I pretended I liked the fish stew. I did not. I ate it for 6 years. I feel this says something about me. You snort softly. You snort softly. Even here, in this sea of sorrow, there's room for humor. That's good. Necessary. But others dig deeper. I left my village because I thought I was meant for more. I was not. And now the trees don't know me. That one stays with you longer than you'd like. You move on. Each letter is different. Some poetic, others blunt, a few barely legible. But all of them speak the same language. The language of after. After the choice. After the silence. After the door was closed and could no longer be opened. There's something sacred in their stillness. These weren't written in hopes of being fixed. These were acknowledgments, not apologies. Just the act of saying, this happened, I did or didn't do this, and I carry it still. You reach the end of the gallery and find one final scroll, but longer than the others. A soft golden thread binds it, now faded and nearly translucent. The ink is still dark. You read, Sobek, I once thought regret was weakness, that only those who did not plan well would carry it. I was proud. Then the flood came. I told them we were safe. I told them the water would not rise again. I said it like a chant, like a fact. I said it so many times I believed it. You paused, then it rose higher than ever before. I saved myself. I do not know who else did. No one looks me in the eyes. Perhaps they never will again. Perhaps they shouldn't. I don't write this to ask for mercy. I write this so that the truth can sit beside me, like an old friend with no more words left. You fold the scroll gently and return it to its place. There's a bench nearby, stone, low to the ground. You sit and you feel it. Not sorrow exactly, but the weight of knowing, of recognizing that time does not rewind, that prayers cannot unsay actions, that the best most of us can hope for is to name what haunts us, and trust that naming it somehow makes it smaller, not gone, but bearable. You rest there for a long moment, letting the silence wrap around you like a heavy blanket. Eventually you stand. Before leaving, you glance one last time at the line of glowing letters. They don't feel sad anymore. They feel human. You step through the arched doorway at the end of the chamber and enter a new corridor. This one is brighter, not much, just enough to feel like dawn peeking under a door. The walls begin to shift again. New carvings appear. A crocodile curled into a circle, its tail in its mouth. A papyrus scroll unfurling into a river. A pair of eyes open on a sleeping face. And then, just ahead, a door. Not open, not closed, just waiting. You move toward it, and beyond it, something new. The door doesn't creak. It doesn't swing open dramatically. It simply shifts, like it had always been meant to open for you and was just waiting for the right moment. You step through, and suddenly, the light changes. You're standing in a courtyard, a hidden interior space at the heart of the temple, open to the sky above with its stars like pinpricks in a dark silk canopy. The air is cool, touched with dew, and smells faintly of mint and wet stone. You hear water somewhere, gentle, repeating, like a memory being rehearsed. It takes a moment for your eyes to adjust, and when they do, you see them. Crocodiles, dozens, not real ones, stone, terracotta, bronze, some no larger than your hand, others long enough to cradle a child. They rest on plinths inside niches beneath flowering trees. Some are upright, regal. Others are curled around bowls, boxes, or nothing at all, just coiled into themselves as if sleeping. Each one bears a scroll. You walk slowly among them. This is not a burial ground. It's a library, or maybe an altar, a garden of messages. Every sculpture holds something, a letter, a word, a symbol, even a drawing. You pause at one, a crocodile with its mouth gently open, and inside a single papyrus curled like a tongue. You squint at the writing. Sobek, I dreamed you swallowed the sun and the day was quiet for once. You smile. There's a kind of poetry in that. Maybe this place is where the strangest letters ended up. The ones that didn't fit in the proper baskets or burned piles. The misfits. The mysteries. A few scrolls have drawings instead of words. One is a child's sketch of a man crying beside a boat. Another shows a crocodile sleeping under a tree with little birds in its mouth. There's a kind of trust in that image. The idea that even a predator can be gentle. You reach a shallow pool in the middle of the courtyard. It's not large, maybe the size of a small bath. The water is perfectly still. You crouch beside it and notice coins at the bottom. Beads, feathers, one tiny sandal, offerings. You lean closer. At the center of the pool rests a sculpture of a crocodile, this one carved from green stone, smooth as glass. On its back, a single papyrus scroll sealed in wax, untouched by the water. You peer down at it, curious, then you blink. The wax is new, or newer, it hasn't cracked. The scroll is tight, and next to it, resting neatly on the crocodile's snout, is a folded piece of linen embroidered with a single word. Soon. You feel the breath catch in your throat, a message for someone who hasn't arrived yet, or one that's waiting to be read. It could be meant for you, or someone else, you'll never know. That's the kind of place this is, where certainty steps aside so wonder can speak. You rise and continue walking. On the far side of the courtyard, a bronze crocodile is perched on a plinth that's been etched with hundreds of tiny names, each one paired with a number and a short phrase. You run your fingers across a few. Nibet, 41 winters, waited for her son. Payam, 27, never returned from the marsh. Jesu, 63, outlived her grandchildren. It's a record of grief, of names not forgotten. These weren't royal, not scribes. Just ordinary people who wrote, prayed, hoped, and someone, maybe many someones, preserve their memory here. Not in gold, but in ink and time. You're suddenly aware that you've stopped walking because something has shifted, not outside. Inside you. You're no longer a guest here. You're a witness. That's what this place has made you. You look up, the stars are perfectly clear now, like they've been waiting behind a veil. The sky above the courtyard feels vast and close at once, like a quiet parent standing nearby while a child finally finishes their sentence. You turn to leave the courtyard, but something stops you. There's one final sculpture near the archway, so simple you almost missed it. No scroll, no carving, just a plain stone crocodile curled into itself. On its back, someone has placed a single small stone. You recognize the gesture. It's a marker, a message with no words. You kneel beside it. Your fingers brush the stone. It's warm, not from the sun. It's been hours since sunset, warm like held memory. You don't add anything, not yet. But the thought stirs in you. You'll come back to it. You rise and step through the arch, back into the temple, back into the slow spiral of corridors and breath and paper and God. But something has changed. You're not just walking anymore. You're carrying something, not heavy, not sharp, just something that needs to be written down someday and maybe left behind. The arch leads you back into the cool, curving belly of the temple. You notice now that the corridors no longer feel unfamiliar. They turn, yes, they bend and narrow and darken, but they don't feel like a maze anymore. They feel like a story unfolding at its own pace. And you're no longer the reader. You're becoming part of the ink. You pass another carved crocodile on your left, its eyes half-lidded, like it's drifting between sleep and memory. You don't stop to read anything this time. You're following a feeling now. It leads you into a chamber, unlike the others, round, domed, and filled with something you haven't encountered yet in this place. Sound. Not music, not chanting, just writing. You hear it before you see them. The scribes. A group of them scattered throughout the chamber, each at a low desk, bent over papyrus scrolls. You don't speak. You don't need to. They don't look up. Their reed pens move with a steady, soft rhythm, like moths brushing against stone. And the sound they make, it's hypnotic. Scratch, breathe, dip, write. Scratch, pause, dip, continue. You stand at the edge of the chamber, watching. Each scribe is different in age and posture. One rocks slightly as he writes. Another chews her lip. One taps the desk every few lines. And each scroll on their desks is unique. You walk slowly among them. Not close enough to disturb, just close enough to witness. The first scribe is copying a letter you've seen before. A plea for justice over stolen grain. But his handwriting is different, smaller, tighter, as if trying to hide emotion beneath precision. The next is writing from memory. No original in front of her. Just closed eyes, lips moving silently as she transcribes the dream. He walked through the reeds, she whispers, but left no footprints. You move on. A young scribe at the end of the row writes with one hand and holds a stone in the other, maybe for grounding, maybe for courage. His scroll is long, still unbroken, just one sentence repeated again and again. Please know I meant no harm. You want to say something, but you don't. This room isn't for talking, it's for keeping. That's what these scribes are doing, keeping. Not saving, not judging, just holding the words so they don't disappear. You finally approach the center of the chamber. There's a single empty desk, a reed pen beside it, a fresh scroll. No one gestures to it, but it's obvious. It's for you. You sit. The bench is low, smooth from use. The pen feels light. The ink jar is full, no ceremony. No voice from the ceiling telling you what to write, just the space, the silence, and the invitation. You pause, staring at the blank scroll. You want to ask, what am I supposed to say? But the temple doesn't answer with words, it just waits. So you begin. You don't write your name, you don't date the page, you just begin where you are. I have carried something for a long time, and I don't know what to do with it anymore. Your hand doesn't hesitate. The words come easily, as if they've been waiting in your fingers this whole time. It's not shame exactly, not fear, just wait. A story I keep repeating in my head, as if the ending will change if I tell it differently. You breathe. I don't know if anyone will read this. Maybe I don't want anyone to, but I want it written down, so it doesn't sit behind my eyes anymore. You pause. Look at what you've written. It's not long, not profound, but it's honest. And in this temple, that's the only currency that matters. You place the reed pen down, and suddenly, as if a breath you didn't know you were holding escapes, the ink begins to dry faster than before. Like the page has accepted your words. You stand. No one claps. No one nods. But one of the scribes, an older man with cloud gray hair and fingers permanently ink-stained, gently reaches for your scroll. He reads the first line, smiles softly, then folds it. He doesn't file it with the others. He places it in a small basket lined with linen, beside a carved wooden crocodile with a chipped tail. And that's that. You walk quietly out of the chamber. As you do, the scratching resumes behind you. No pause, no farewell. The scribes keep writing. The temple keeps receiving. It always has. You step back into the corridor, which now feels warmer. The walls aren't just stone anymore. They're pages. They're stories stacked one over another. And you've just added yours. You walk on. And behind you, the whisper of a reed pen continues. Scratch, breathe, dip, write, scratch, pause, dip, continue. You're not sure how long you've been walking. The corridor curves as always, gentle and deliberate, like it's tracing a spiral inward, not toward a center, but toward something softer. You feel lighter now, but not empty. It's a different kind of lightness, the kind that comes after telling the truth out loud, not to be fixed, but simply placed somewhere. Ahead, the passage opens again, revealing a room unlike any before. This one is filled with color. Soft, muted tones like ancient paintings left too long in the sun. Faded blues, ochres, deep reds now turned to rust and rose. The walls are painted, not carved. Murals stretch across the plaster in long horizontal bands, layered like history. And in each one, a crocodile. Not terrifying, not monstrous. Domestic, present, watching. One scene shows a crocodile walking beside a woman carrying a basket. Another depicts a child drawing beside one, its tail curled protectively around her. In another, it floats in a river, and above it, written in looping script, "To be feared is not the same as being cruel." You pause at that. You've read so many letters by now, pleas, confessions, regrets, and still, this single line of painted script makes your breath catch. You keep walking. This chamber is less of a shrine, more of a gallery, not for the god, but for the people who lived with him. Around the edges of the room, small niches are carved into the walls, inside each an object, not gold or jewels, nothing grand. Simple things, a worn sandal, a necklace strung with just 3 beads, a wooden flute missing its mouthpiece, a comb, a doll made of bundled linen. Everyday objects, left here it seems, not as offerings, but as reminders. You realize what this place is. This isn't where people ask for things, it's where they came to remember what they already had. And to thank Sobek for not the miracles, but the ordinary survivals, for the day that went unruined, the illness that passed, the letter that arrived, the dream that soothed. You reach a small stone table in the center of the room. On it lies a single scroll, unrolled, not displayed, but simply waiting. You lean over it. This is not a request. It begins. It is a thank you for nothing. That gives you pause. But the letter continues. Nothing terrible happened this year. No one died. The grain came in late, but it came. The boat was leaky, but it floated. The child fell from the tree, but he laughed. My wife is still here. My hands still work. My mind, though slow, still knows my name. I thank you for all the disasters that didn't happen, for the The ordinary hours, the boring afternoons, the bread that rose, the tea that stayed warm, the peace that did not draw attention to itself. You swallow hard, no thunder, no visions, just a hymn to the quiet things, and somehow that feels like the most sacred prayer of all. You look again at the murals. Now you see them differently. You notice the expressions on the painted faces. Tired, yes, but not desperate. This wasn't a room for pleading. This was a room for relief, a room for release. The way people might light a candle not to ask for something, but to say thank you for getting me through another Tuesday. You sit on the stone bench nearby, and for a moment you don't think. You just feel. How often does that happen? You're surrounded by echoes, but they don't demand anything from you. No action, no decision, just presence. A warmth builds behind your chest, slow and subtle. You imagine the kinds of letters written in this room, not dramatic, not desperate, just scribbled lines like, "The bleeding stopped today. The ox didn't die. The stranger was kind. I laughed. Thank you." You run your hand across the edge of the stone table. It's worn smooth. So many others must have rested here, placing down their relief like river stones. You smile gently, then you rise. You don't need to write anything right now, but the words are there, waiting, tucked into your sleeve like a folded note to be read later. The corridor is still there, curling outward again like a ribbon on the breeze. You walk toward it, and this time, your steps feel different, not lighter, but grateful. The corridor this time doesn't turn. It stretches straight ahead, longer than any before. A rare thing in this temple of spirals and slow curves. It feels deliberate, like the temple is giving you a moment to process, to walk without distraction. A hallway of digestion, of integration, of quiet understanding. The walls here are unadorned, pale stone, smooth to the touch, with no carvings, no alcoves, no distractions, just the sound of your footsteps. And something else. Footsteps ahead of you, soft, even, not hurried. You stop, so do they. You start walking again. They continue, but no one is there. It's not frightening. It's familiar, like walking beside your own memory, like a second version of yourself slightly ahead, leading you forward with the grace of already knowing the way. You reach the end of the hallway. A new chamber opens, a wide, dim space lit only by the flicker of water. You hear it first, that distinct, hollow resonance of something dripping into something deeper. And then you see it, a well, low and wide, made from polished black stone. The surface of the water is impossibly still, like obsidian laid flat. A perfect circle reflecting not just the ceiling, but your face, faint and flickering in the soft glow. Around the well there are no scribes, no letters, no scrolls, just stones. Smooth, flat, carved with single words. You pick one up. Listen, not yet. Another. Again. You turn one over, not everything needs to speak. Yeah, you notice an inscription circling the outer rim of the well. Not a plea, not a prayer, just a sentence. When you are ready, say nothing. You sit beside the well. There's a silence here that's not empty. It's the kind of silence that comes after, for everything's been said, the kind that hums that just beyond language, the thud, your brain that hums in the space just beyond language. You're not expected to write or confess, or even remember. You're just expected to be. To sit, to feel the cool of the stone under your palms, to watch the water and know that it's been watching back for centuries without blinking. You pick up a stone and without reading it, drop it into the well. The sound is soft, deep, final. A ripple folds outward, bends the reflection of your face and vanishes. You feel lighter, not in your chest, in your hands, like something you were holding has been set down, not thrown, not lost, just placed somewhere safe. You stand. There's no ritual here, no candles, no witness, just you, and a God who doesn't speak in thunder, but in stone and patience. As you walk away from the well, you notice something written faintly along the exit wall, carved so thin it's nearly invisible, as though the temple didn't want you to find it until you were ready. You are not what you carried, you are what you laid down. You pause, read it again. Then, for the first time since you arrived in this ancient place of letters and crocodiles and silence, you whisper out loud, "Thank you." You don't know who it's for exactly, but the moment the words leave your lips, the corridor headlights itself softly, one lantern at a time, like stars being gently convinced to return to the sky. You smile, and keep walking. The corridor is no longer stone. Somewhere between the last step and this one, the floor has changed. Smooth plaster giving way to polished wood, old and dark, warm beneath your feet. The sound of your footsteps shifts with it, from the muted hush of stone to a faint creak, like walking across a floor that remembers every person who's ever passed this way. It smells faintly of something sweet, smoke and sap, maybe cedar, something familiar, comforting. Like a box you used to keep letters in, like a story told around a fire, retold so many times it's more rhythm than detail. The light here comes not from lanterns or open ceilings, but from windows. Yes, windows. You pause at the first one, surprised. A tall, narrow slit in the wall, framed in aged brass. Through it, night, still and starlit. A single tree stands just outside, unmoving. Beneath it, a stone bench. And on that bench, a figure. You lean closer. It's a woman, sitting with her hands folded. She doesn't move, doesn't look up, but she holds a scroll. And even from this distance, you feel a strange connection, not to her face, which is shadowed, but to her posture. That quiet certainty of someone who's finished saying what they needed to say, and now waits, not for a reply, but for the world to catch up. You move to the next window. A boy, sitting in sand, holding a scroll too, but unopened, like he's not sure yet what's in it, or if he's ready to read it. Another window. A man, standing on a shoreline, holding a scroll above the tide as if offering it to the sea or daring it to be taken. You walk the full length of the corridor, 20 windows, 20 lives, each one holding a message. Not one of them looks at you. They're not frozen. They're simply in their own story. And then you see the final window, but there's no one there, only a single stone platform like an altar, and resting on it, a scroll, unrolled, facing you. You step closer. There's no barrier now, no glass, no wall, just air. You feel as though you could walk through and into that moonlit space, but you stay where you are. The message is meant to be read, not changed. It says, you will not be remembered for what you wanted to say. You will be remembered for what you chose to leave behind. A pause. Then, so leave something worth echoing. You don't move, not right away, because it feels like this moment is not an end, but a threshold. The kind of sentence that comes not at the close of a chapter, but right before the next one begins. Eventually your hands fall gently to your sides. You nod, not to anyone in particular, just to the room, to the temple, to yourself. And as you take your next step, something changes again. You feel a breeze, not from behind, ahead. And not a draft, a pull, gentle, like an invitation from a page already turning. You follow it, and in doing so, you realize something simple and profound. This temple was never just about writing letters to a god. It was always about helping you find the words and the courage to walk forward after they've been written. The breeze grows steadier. It smells like river water and fresh reeds, like dusk after rain. It moves ahead of you, guiding, not pushing, like someone taking your hand and walking just a few steps in front, trusting you'll follow. You step into a vast space so large it feels like a held breath. A dome chamber stretches out around you, impossibly round with no corners to cling to. The air is thick with memory, but it doesn't press. It rests, a hush of 1,000 unspoken thoughts curled together in sleep. At the center stands a pedestal, not a grand one, not carved or gilded, just a smooth, low table made of the same stone as the floor. On it lies a single item, a sealed letter. The scroll is tied with deep green twine, the kind you've seen in other parts of the temple, but this one is different. Your name isn't on it, but somehow, it's meant for you. You approach slowly. A few steps away, you stop, not out of fear, out of respect. This scroll doesn't hum with urgency. It waits with quiet expectation, like a note left behind by someone who knew you'd arrive eventually. You sit beside it, let your hands rest on your knees. You don't open it. Not yet. Instead, your eyes wander the dome above. There are no carvings, no writing, just a long, slow curve that leads your gaze upward and upward until, there at the very top, you notice the faintest flicker of light. A single tiny hole in the ceiling. A star shines through. One star. You blink. It blinks back. And then, for the first time in this temple, you hear a sound that isn't made by ink or wind or breath. You hear water. You look down. The floor, now that you're noticing it, glistens. Not wet, but damp. Like this place is close to the water table, or like it's been washed over again and again by something older than rivers. And then you understand. You're not just in the temple of Sobek, you are under it. This is where the crocodiles were born. Not the creatures, the gods, the ideas, the hopes, the desperation, the forgiveness, the love letters, the lies, the promises never sent. All of it lives here, layered like sediment, pressed into the stone, and now this letter. You reach out and touch it, warm, and with a small exhale you untie it. The scroll unrolls easily. The ink is dark, fresh as though written moments ago, and yet the style, the rhythm of it is ancient, familiar. Like the temple has taken all the letters ever written and distilled them into one. It reads, "You have walked long. You have carried many voices. You have written your truth. Now you may rest." A pause then, or if you choose, write again. There's no signature, just a symbol at the bottom. A crocodile, coiled into a circle, tail touching teeth. You trace it with your finger. The temple has no end. It only curves. Again and again. You sit back, close your eyes, and let the room breathe with you. For the first time in what feels like hours, days, you feel no pressure to move forward, no tension in the next step. You are exactly where you should be. You fold the letter back gently, place it where it was, and when you rise, something in your chest rises too. Not an answer, but something better, a quiet readiness. You turn toward the next passageway, not because you must, but because you want to. The next passage greets you like an exhale. It's narrow again and low. The walls press a little closer, not in menace, but in intimacy. After the vast, echoing dome, this corridor feels almost like a hallway in someone's home. Lived in, known. The breeze is quieted now, replaced by a soft hum, low and steady. You can't tell if it's coming from the stone or from within your own body, but either way, it soothes something under your ribs. You keep walking, and soon the walls begin to change again. Not smooth, not blank, but textured, covered in tiny carvings, lines and loops and waves etched shallowly across the surface, no larger than the width of your finger. At first they seem abstract, but when you look closely you see what they are. Sound waves. The written shapes of spoken words, whispers immortalized in stone. You pause and run your fingers gently along one. It dips and rises like a heartbeat. Next to it, carved in small, steady text, he said, "I forgive you," and I didn't know what to do with that. You walk on. Each set of sound waves is paired with a line of text, not always profound, but always real. She laughed. I thought she wouldn't. It wasn't thunder. It was my father shouting. I told the truth too late. His silence was not peace. Every sentence is a voice trapped in time, a memory flattened into stone, not to imprison, but to preserve. You feel like you've walked into a living audio archive, a room of resonance. Some of the carvings are so faint they've nearly disappeared. You kneel beside one and squint. It's almost unreadable, but the last part catches your eye. And he said, "I'm proud of you." You swallow. That one sits differently, deep. You move on and the hum grows louder, but not intrusive. It's not a chant, not music, just vibration. Like the temple is remembering everything ever said within it, and letting those sounds loop gently beneath the surface. You reach the heart of the chamber. It's small, circular, lit by the soft glow of fireflies or something that looks like them, floating gently in the air as if language had decided to glow in the dark. Here in the center stands a single sculpture, a crocodile, but not majestic, not fearsome. It's small, curled, asleep. Its mouth is shut, its eyes are closed, and resting beneath one outstretched claw is a listening shell, an object shaped like a spiral carved from sandstone, polished smooth. It looks like something you'd press to your ear to hear the sea. You do. You kneel, lift the shell, and listen. At first there's only the faintest rush, like wind or breath. Then a voice, not loud, not clear, but familiar. It's your own. A whisper, spoken once in this temple, maybe hours ago, maybe longer. I'm doing my best. You smile, soft and stunned. The temple has been listening all along, not judging, not recording, just holding every word, every silence, every line you didn't write but thought about writing. You return the shell gently beneath the crocodile's claw. This place isn't for asking, it's for remembering what's already been said. You sit a while longer, not thinking, not planning, just existing, surrounded by 1,000 sound waves folded into walls like songs without melody. And when you finally stand again, you feel full, not overwhelmed, but complete. You walk out slowly, leaving the chamber of echoes behind. But one sentence follows you. like a thread tied around your wrist. He said, "I forgive you," and I didn't know what to do with that. Maybe now, you do. Pinch from the echoing chamber like stepping out of a dream that still clings to your skin. The corridor ahead is narrower again, but not tight. It's intentional, like the temple wants you close to the walls now, wants you to feel them breathing beside you like old friends walking arm in arm. No words, just presence. This part of the temple feels different, older. No, that's not it. It feels personal. You notice it in the carvings first. They're not official looking anymore, not formal or etched by trained hands. These are rough, irregular, carved at odd angles, some deep, others barely scratched. Their names, dozens, hundreds. Not of gods or scribes or kings, just people. Teddy, Marenra, Hapu, Nefer, Neset, Tari. Some names are followed by a single word: farmer, daughter, apprentice, blind, kind. You realize what this is? A wall of signers, not signers of a contract, signers of presence. These were the people who came here and left behind nothing more than their names. They didn't write letters, they didn't burn scrolls, they didn't ask for anything. They just said, "I was here." You run your fingers along a name that's been almost rubbed smooth by time. Kaha. That's all, but it's enough. You feel something stir in your chest, recognition, not of Kaha specifically, but of the desire to be seen, even without spectacle. You move on. The names continue, winding like a river along the walls, up over the curved ceiling, even underfoot. It's like walking across whispers. Eventually, the corridor opens into a small chamber of offerings. It's not grand. No statues, no altars, just shelves. And on each shelf, things left behind. Not valuable, not shiny, but meaningful. A strand of hair wrapped in silk, a feather painted gold at the tip. A piece of charcoal tied with twine. A necklace made of dry beans. A cracked mirror. A child's doll carved from reed, missing one eye. You feel it immediately. None of these objects were meant to impress the gods. They were meant to tell the truth. Each one is a message without words. A memory given shape. A moment someone couldn't put into a scroll, so they left it here instead. You walk slowly past them. You don't touch, but you feel. Each object vibrates faintly, not physically, but in its intention. A quiet thrum of love, regret, gratitude, grief. And then you notice one shelf with nothing on it, blank, dustless, waiting. You step closer, there's a small inscription above the space. Just 4 words: when you are ready. You reach for your pocket, but of course you brought nothing with you, or have you? You look down at your hand, your palm, your skin, your memory, and you realize maybe what you're meant to leave behind doesn't have to be an object. Maybe it's a thought, a name, a silence. You place your hand gently on the shelf, not to leave something on it, but in it. A moment, an intention, a trace. Then you withdraw. And as you do, the space doesn't glow, doesn't shift, doesn't change. It simply holds what you've given it, as this temple has done 1,000 times before. You step back, look around the room one last time. The shelves, the names, the objects, the absences. Everything in here says the same thing. We were here. We lived. We felt. We left something behind, and now so have you. You exit the room, not with ceremony, but with peace. You carry nothing, and yet somehow you are more full than when you entered. The next passage is quiet in a different way. Not sacred, not solemn, but tender. It feels like being let into someone's diary, one written not for confession or clarity, but for comfort. The walls are still stone, but warmer in tone now. Reddish brown, like baked clay. You notice a faint scent of something soft and earthy. Linen, warm dust. Home. And the carvings here, they're different again. These aren't names. Not sound waves. Not prayers. They're stories, short ones. Tiny, self-contained memories etched in lines that flow like a river around the corridor. Each one the length of a breath. You walk slowly, reading as you pass. He held the basket the wrong way and all the figs fell out, and we laughed until the bread burned. I told her I would wait. She told me not to. Neither of us listened. My son asked if crocodiles dream. I told him yes. That was enough for both of us. We did not speak again, but I kept the shell. These aren't sacred texts, they're life, folded into a few sentences. No dramatic arcs, no divine endings, just moments. Real, beautiful, uneventful moments. You feel your pace slow, not from tiredness, from reverence. Because these memories, these trivial, tender things, are precious in a way you didn't expect. They're the kind that slip through your fingers if you're not paying attention. You reach one carved at eye level, its lines deeper than the rest, as if the carver pressed harder or maybe returned again and again to retrace them. The day she left, I made soup. I don't remember eating it, but I remember stirring it. That was the last thing I did with both hands. You close your eyes, and for a moment, everything pauses. The temple doesn't move. You don't move. The words float between you and the stone, like steam from a forgotten bowl. When you open your eyes, the story is still there, and so are you. You keep walking, you pass dozens more, some etched too lightly to fully read. Some already worn smooth by time and fingers, some paired with small illustrations. Stick figures, fish, fins, suns, eyes, a few with hearts. Actual carved hearts, not just the shape, the anatomical kind. Somehow more honest that way. Eventually you reach the end of the corridor. But instead of another door, another chamber, there's just a wide stone bench under a mural, one single long image stretching across the wall. It shows a figure sitting at a low table writing on papyrus. Behind them a crocodile, not looming, just sitting, watching. And between them a single candle. The light, it seems, is shared. Not gifted, not given, just shared. You sit on the bench letting the image settle into your eyes, and suddenly you understand something about this whole journey. The letters, the names, the dreams, the regrets. None of it was about asking the gods to fix your life. It was about marking that it happened, that you were here, that your presence meant something, even if only to a crocodile, even if only to yourself. You take a deep breath, and in the quiet that follows, you feel something shift, not in the temple, but in you. You have become one of the stories, short, true, unfinished. You stand and you walk on. You move forward into a corridor that doesn't feel like a corridor at all. It feels like after the letter is written, after the tears are shed, after the voice has gone quiet and the body has finally stopped shaking. This is the hallway of what happens next. The walls here are smooth again, not carved, not painted, just warm and worn, like hands have passed over them for centuries. And the light, it's low, golden, steady, as if the sun has snuck in through some secret crack and decided to stay a while. You walk slowly, there's no rush anymore, and along the corridor, resting every few steps, are small, low tables. Each holds a closed scroll, sealed with a different color of twine, blue, red, yellow, gray. Some are wrapped neatly, others in a hurry, ends frayed, wax smeared. You don't open them. That doesn't feel right. But beside each one is a small inscription. Just a line. Not the contents of the letter. But what happened after it was written. You pause beside the first scroll. Blue twine. Neat. The inscription reads, "After she left this letter, she slept through the night for the first time in 9 years." You keep walking. Red twine. Frayed. The wax cracked. He never sent it, but he stopped saying the same thing out loud every morning. Another, yellow. She wrote this and then forgave herself very slowly, about over the course of 12 winters. Each scroll here holds a story, but not the kind you read, the kind you live after you've stopped writing. Some lines are quiet victories. He stopped going to the market on Thursdays because that's when they used to meet. It helped. Others are painfully small, but still movement. She stopped apologizing to furniture after bumping into it. It was a start. And some are so beautifully mundane, they make your chest ache. They argued less after she left this here, not because anything changed, but because she did. You run your hand gently along the edge of one table. The scroll atop it is tied with black string. The inscription reads, "He wrote it, burned it, then came back the next day and wrote it again." That one he kept. And suddenly you realize this corridor isn't about the writing, it's about the release. The letting go, the subtle shift, the way we change, not all at once, but in the way we dry our hands differently, or laugh more honestly, or walk into silence without fearing it. You sit down at one of the empty tables. There's no scroll on this one, just a piece of papyrus, blank, and beside it a reed pen. You stare at it, not with the urgency of someone desperate to speak, but with the softness of someone who finally knows what to say. You write, "I thought the letter would change the world, but it changed me instead." You leave it there. No seal, no twine, no ritual, just the truth. And when you stand again, something surprising happens. You laugh, a small, unexpected, breathy laugh, like the first one after a long cry. Because you understand now, the temple was never judging your pain. It was just waiting for you to see it wasn't the end of the story. You walk to the end of the corridor, and just before you step through the arch ahead, you glance back. The scrolls remain still sealed. The inscriptions still glowing softly, but they no longer feel like history. They feel like company. You nod. Not goodbye, just thank you. Then you step forward into whatever comes next. The next room is unexpected. It's not dim. It's bright, filled with natural light from a narrow skylight cut into the ceiling, so high above you that the sun seems more like a concept than a presence. But the light reaches down anyway, soft and golden, touching the floor like a blessing. You squint at first. You're not used to this much clarity after so much hush and shadow. It's like stepping out of a confession booth and finding yourself on stage. But the feeling fades quickly because this room doesn't judge. It illuminates. At the center is a single wide table. On it, dozens of scrolls, but these are open, each unrolled and weighed gently at the corners with smooth river stones, the ink still dark, the lines still clear, and above the table, etched into the stone in letters so fine you almost miss them. These are the ones they chose to share. You walk to the table, not out of curiosity, out of respect. Each scroll is a letter, but not to gods, not to crocodiles, not even to the self. They're letters to others, people, real ones. You read the first. To the woman I met once on the ferry to the Delta who gave me the orange and didn't ask why I was crying. Thank you, you saved me more than prayer ever did. You pause, then read another. To my brother who never knew I looked up to him. I did, I still do. Even though we don't speak, your laugh is the sound I measure all good things by. And another. To the man I didn't marry. I hope you're still singing when you bathe and still burning the lentils. I was not meant to stay, but I am so glad we passed through each other. You rest your hands on the table, palms flat. It's hard to describe what you feel. Not sadness, not nostalgia, something like witnessing. These people wrote not for resolution, but for remembrance. It's because some messages don't ask for answers, they just ask to exist. To live on, even if unread, even if unsent, even if unfinished. You read one more, just a single line, to the one I heard. This letter is not an apology, it's proof that I remember. You exhale slowly, then you notice something else. There's space on the table, a wide section, blank. Clean papyrus, laid flat, unrolled, ready. And beside it, a reed pen. You smile, because the temple really has a thing for leaving invitations everywhere. Not demands, not orders, just open doors. You sit, and for the first time in this journey, you write not to the divine, not to the self, but to someone else. You don't have to think long. Your hand begins to move. To the one who never heard me say it, I was scared. That's all. I wasn't cold, I wasn't cruel, I was just scared, and silence felt safer than being wrong. You pause, then add, I don't expect a reply, but I hope you've stopped waiting. You place the pen down. The ink dries quickly in the sun. You lift the smooth river stone next to the scroll and place it gently on the corner of your letter. There, it stays. You rise, walk slowly along the table one last time. One scroll, near the edge, catches your attention. It reads, to the stranger who might read this someday. I don't know your name, but I hope you found a way to forgive yourself before the world asked you to explain. You look around the room. It's warm, not hot. Alive. You feel something in your chest shift, like a drawer opening, letting light into a place you hadn't visited in a long time. Then behind you, a sound, not footsteps, not wind, just a voice. Yours, in memory. I thought the letter would change the world, but it changed me instead. You smile, because you know now, that's enough. You step into the next hall. The light fades as you leave the bright room behind, not abruptly but gently, like dust closing its hand over a flame. Your eyes adjust slowly, and you feel the temple's hush return. Not the kind of silence that asks for stillness, but the kind that listens. This new corridor feels different again, more contained, more intimate, and ahead of you, doors, dozens of them, set into the stone on either side of the hall, each one unique. Different sizes, materials, shapes. Some are tall and arched, others low and square. One is barely taller than your knee. Another rises like a gate to the sky. Each bears a symbol. Some are familiar, an open eye, a coiled snake, a fish, a flame, Others are strange, personal, a broken sandal, a cup with a crack, a single falling feather. There's no map, no guide. But you know what this is? These are private rooms. You step toward the first door, a narrow one made of palm wood, etched with concentric circles. You reach for the handle. It turns easily. The door opens without resistance. Inside, a small chamber, softly lit, and in the center, a stone slab no bigger than a desk. On it, a scroll. You read the first line. This letter was never meant to be sent. You step back, gently close the door. This one's not for you. You move on, open another door. This one round like a coin standing on its side. Inside, a mural of stars painted across every surface, walls, ceiling, even floor. In the center, no scroll, just a piece of woven cloth embroidered with the word almost. You close it, heart quiet. You try another, and another. Each room holds something different. A message never delivered, a secret kept in plain sight, a letter written in a dream, a name whispered but never spoken aloud again. Some rooms smell faintly of herbs, some of ash, one of honey, another salt water. Each one a fragment of someone's interior life, made real, given space, allowed to be. You start to recognize a rhythm, not the content, but the courage. Each of these doors marks a moment when someone was brave enough to admit something, even if no one would ever read it. You pause at one final door. It's small, simple, just stone, no handle, only a handprint carved into its center. You press your palm to it, a gentle click, it opens. Inside, a single round room, bare. No murals, no scrolls, only a single word carved into the floor at your feet. Yours. You step inside. The door closes behind you and the light dims, not into darkness, but into something velvety, quiet, restful. The walls curve like an embrace. You sit. There is no letter here. Not yet. To write. To speak. To sit in silence and let your body say the thing your voice can't. You close your eyes and for the first time you say something. Not aloud. Not even in your mind. You just say it in the shape of your breath and somehow that's enough. You don't need to write it down because you heard it. And the temple heard it too. When you stand to leave, the door opens for you. You walk out, back into the hall of many doors. You keep going, and behind you quietly, another door closes. The corridor narrows now, not from pressure, but from purpose. This part of the temple feels like a breath held in the chest, like it's waiting. The walls are closer, the ceiling lower, and the light is faint but warm, like that moment just before sunrise when the sky doesn't know whether it's still night or not. You move more slowly now, not out of hesitation, but because it feels right to take your time. Then you notice you're not alone. Not really. The walls are lined with statues, small seated figures carved from stone, clay, and wood. Dozens of them, maybe more. Each one unique. They don't move, they don't speak. But they watch in that quiet way that only something deeply still can. And in front of each statue, a letter. Some old, some recent, some barely legible, some wrapped in cloth, one sealed with a single sunflower seed. These aren't offerings, they're updates. You read one. I got the job finally. It's not perfect, but I think I like who I am when I'm there. Another. We planted the fig tree after all. It's taken root. You'd love it. Another simpler still. I've stopped waking up afraid. This is the temple's return room, where people came not to ask, but to report back, to say what happened, what changed, what didn't. You reach a statue carved from river-smooth granite. Its face is almost featureless, but the shape of its hands, cupped gentle, reminds you of someone listening carefully. The letter at its feet reads, I didn't expect anything when I left my words here, but you must have held them because I didn't break. You sit, not because you're tired, because you want to join them. You take a breath, close your eyes, and in the privacy of this moment, surrounded by the quiet chorus of people who came back to say, thank you, I'm okay, or even I'm still trying, you think of your own update. It doesn't have to be long, it doesn't even have to be whole, just honest. You whisper it into your hands like a paper crane, and when you open your eyes, you set it down not on paper, not in ink, but into the air. It joins the rest, unseen, but not unfelt. You rise, and now the corridor shifts again, widening gently. The ceiling lifts, and up ahead, the light changes once more. You're walking not toward an ending, but a widening horizon. The statues fade, but behind you, the letters remain, and somewhere deep inside the temple, 1,000 silent stories lean gently forward, listening. The corridor opens, and for the first time you feel wind, soft and real, moving across your skin like a breath you didn't know you'd been holding on to for years. It carries a scent with it, not incense, not ink. Water. Fresh, living water. You follow it, the walls fall away into pillars, tall, elegant, framing the open sky above. You're in a colonnade now, half inside, half out, where temple meets river, and everything feels like it's exhaling. The Nile is just beyond, dark and wide, moving with a current older than names. The moon lays a silver path across it, and for a moment you wonder, if you walked far enough along that silver, could you reach the other side of something that doesn't have a name? You step closer, and you see them. Boats. Dozens of them. Small, personal, carved from wood, each different in shape, style, detail. Some are painted, some are simple, some are barely more than hollowed out logs. Every boat carries a scroll, not letters to gods, not updates, not regrets. These are letters meant to leave. You watch as a young woman steps out of a shadowed alcove. She walks to one of the boats, her hands shaking just slightly, and places her scroll inside. She doesn't pray, she doesn't speak. She just nudges it forward, into the river, and the current takes it. No fire, no fanfare, just letting go. You move to the launch platform, a long, low stone ledge where the boats wait, each one already holding someone's words, maybe someone like you. You sit. There's a basket nearby filled with unfinished scrolls, some blank, some with only a few words. You reach in and pull one out. It already has a sentence at the top. You read it aloud softly. I think I'm ready. Your hand trembles a little. You don't need to write anything else. You walk to the edge and place the scroll in the nearest boat. It's small, crooked, one side painted green, the other bare. It looks like it might spin in a circle. You send it anyway, because that's the point. Not control, not certainty, just release. The boat drifts out, and you watch it go until it becomes part of the dark, part of the river, part of the story of everything. Another follows, then another. You realize people are coming now, quietly, like ghosts, like dreams, each placing their own boat in the current. No one speaks, no one hurries. Everyone is carrying something they're no longer meant to hold. You sit and watch them, and something inside you loosens, because this is what the temple was always leading you to. Not the letter, not the God, not even the truth, but this, the act of letting it go. You stay a while, maybe you'll write again, maybe not, but either way, the river is there, ready, always ready. And when you finally rise, your hands are empty. And your chest feels like a room that someone just opened a window in. The wind moves again, you follow it. The path winds away from the river slowly, like it understands you're not quite ready to leave. It doesn't drag you, it walks with you. The night air wraps around your shoulders like a shawl woven from the hush of old prayers and the warmth of unwritten thoughts. You're walking now along a gently curving colonnade, open to the stars, closed to the past. Above you, constellations. Below you, silence. And all around, the feeling that something inside you has already left the letter, the scroll, the moment, and stepped forward. You begin to notice something strange and beautiful. Tiny fragments of papyrus caught in the cracks between stones, like autumn leaves, but lighter, more fragile. You kneel beside one. It's just a torn edge, but the ink is still visible. One word, stay. You pick it up, turn it over. Blank. You place it gently back where it was. Another fragment lies a few steps further. This one reads, gone. You realize you're walking through the dust of stories. Scraps left behind not because they were unimportant, but because they've already served their purpose. Like shells after the tide, like dreams after morning, you find more fragments scattered like soft echoes. I tried. He didn't know. I said yes. You don't need the whole story. The fragments are enough. Somehow they tell you more. Eventually the colonnade leads to a circular clearing and open-air rotunda. At its center, a raised platform, smooth and uncarved. You step onto it. No signs, no inscriptions, no altar, just space. Wide, clean, echoing softly under the sky. This is not a place for offerings, it's a place for being. There's a single sentence etched in the floor at your feet. Now that you've let it go, who will you be? You close your eyes, stand in the middle of the question. The temple doesn't answer, but it also doesn't look away. It waits. And you listen. Inside your chest, a new rhythm begins to rise, not the beat of tension, not the tick of planning or pain, but something simpler, the rhythm of what comes next, not in pages, not in scrolls, not in the ink of trying to explain, just the slow, steady pulse of someone who has written something down and is still here, still becoming. You stay in the rotunda a little longer, letting it settle, letting it root. Then you step off the platform and follow the path as it curls once more, not back, not forward, but further, where you are no longer the person who carried the letter, you are the one who lived after it. The path narrows again, but this time it doesn't feel like a return to anything. It feels like stepping into something entirely new. The walls are smooth again, but this time they're not stone, they're wooden, dark, aged, and warm to the touch. You run your fingers along the grain, and it feels like bark that remembers being a tree. The air smells faintly of oil and ash, with a strange sweetness underneath, something like burned honey. There are no inscriptions here, no scrolls, no symbols, just walls and doors. But unlike before, each of these doors stands open. Inside each room, a scene, not a shrine, not a ritual, not a letter, a memory. You hesitate at the first threshold, then lean just far enough to look in. A small, simple room. A woman sits weaving papyrus into thin strips. She hums to herself, low, repetitive. On the wall beside her, a half-finished scroll. A reed pen sits in ink, forgotten. She doesn't notice you, because this moment isn't happening now. It's being remembered. You step away. The next room, a boy running back and forth, chasing a dog that keeps stealing his sandals. Another room. Two men sitting on a rooftop at night, passing a cup of something strong smelling between them, whispering complaints about their cousins. Another, a girl crying beside a broken pot, until someone off-screen, unseen, places a hand on her shoulder. Every room is lit the same way, soft, flickering like candlelight reflected on the surface of still water. These aren't grand histories. They're small truths, moments no God would demand, but that every soul would want remembered. You step into one quietly. A kitchen, empty. On the table, a loaf of bread half wrapped in cloth, steam still rising from it. A scroll lies nearby. You glance at it. It reads, "The day we didn't argue." You don't touch it. You just stand in the quiet of it, and you realize this part of the temple isn't for asking, releasing, or even remembering. It's for returning to the self before the pain, before the prayer, before the silence, to the moments that didn't feel sacred while they were happening, but were, because they were yours. You walk through more rooms, some funny, some heartbreaking, some so boring they make you smile. A man stirring soup, a child counting coins, a couple folding laundry without speaking, a woman adjusting her shoes 3 times before going out the door. Each room like a page from a story no one thought to write down, but did. Eventually, you reach the last doorway. Inside, nothing, just a bench. And on the bench, a mirror. You step inside, look into it, and there you are. Older, lighter, carrying nothing you don't choose to, wearing the same face, but different eyes. There's no inscription here, no line carved to explain what this is, because this is your memory, not from the past, from now, from this moment forward. It will live here in this quiet room with all the others, not to be worshipped, not to be judged, just to exist, as proof that you did, that you were, that you still are. You step back from the mirror, turn toward the hallway, and the air moves around you gently like a curtain parting. You are not walking out of something anymore. You are walking into it, your story, the one that begins after the letter. The hallway feels like a pause, not an ending, not a beginning. A breath held between chapters, soft, suspended, sacred. You walk without urgency, each step quiet against the wooden floor that creaks just enough to remind you you are still here. And then the corridor opens, not into a chamber, not into a shrine, but into a garden. Unexpected, wild, lush with things that shouldn't be growing so deep within stone you blink. It's real. The scent hits you first, sweet and loamy, green with that deep earthen breath of leaves after rain. Plants grow freely, vines creeping up pillars, flowering bushes spilling into the path, low trees heavy with fruit you don't recognize but feel like you've always known. In the center of the garden is a shallow pool, still and round, filled with water so clear it reflects everything except the sky. You approach slowly. Around the edge of the pool, Small plaques are set into the stone, each one engraved with a single sentence like footsteps from other travelers. You read a few. I am softer now than I ever planned to be. Letting go wasn't loud. Some healing happens in secret. I forgive them, even if I don't see them again. It still hurts, but I stopped calling it punishment. You kneel by the water, not to pray, not to perform, just to witness. The water doesn't ripple, it doesn't shimmer. It just listens. And then, from the corner of your eye, you see a small wooden box resting beneath a tree nearby. Curious, you rise and walk to it. It isn't locked. It isn't hidden. Inside, slips of parchment, blank, and a single reed pen. Another invitation. Of course. You sit beneath the tree, the leaves above you casting dappled shadows on your skin, and you think, not about what you've let go, but what you've kept. Not what you're leaving, but what you're choosing to bring with you. You pick up the pen. You don't need many words. You write, I am still here, and I am still becoming. You fold the parchment, return it to the box. You don't need to leave it in the pool. You don't need to burn it. You don't need to send it anywhere. It's already gone where it needs to go. You rise, take one last look at the garden, at the water that reflects everything except the sky, because here, perhaps, the sky is beside you now. And as you step out of the garden through the arch of ivy and stone, you don't feel like you're leaving anything behind. You feel like you're bringing it with you. But lighter, quieter, truer. You keep walking, and somewhere behind you, the garden remembers. The corridor beyond the garden narrows again. It's dimmer now, like twilight has slowly crept in from the corners of the earth. You barely notice at first until the walls begin to breathe. Or maybe it's you. Hard to tell anymore. The line between you and this place has blurred. Your feet press softly against smooth stone etched with worn glyphs. They don't demand to be read. They whisper instead. Their meanings are felt, not understood. And ahead, you see it. A low archway, smaller than the rest. Like a door meant not for grandeur, but for intimacy. You duck under and enter. Inside is a room, round and low-ceilinged, lined with shelves upon shelves of figurines. Clay, bone, carved ivory, and worn wood. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands, each one no taller than your hand. Each one so carefully, lovingly made. You don't speak. You don't even breathe too loud. There's a bench in the center of the room. You sit, and you notice some of the figurines have names scratched beneath them. Some have none, some are cracked, some perfectly preserved, but they all look loved. A soft light glows from within the walls, not from any flame. It's just there, like the room itself is exhaling. You lean forward, eyes scanning the shapes. One has the head of a crocodile. You smile. Ah, Sobek again. You remember him, the god of the Nile's moods, of fertility, of battle, and of letters. Especially the ones left for dead crocodiles. Remember, maybe one of these figurines belonged to a grieving mother begging for protection. Maybe another is from a child who whispered apologies long after the creature was buried. No one really knows why they left offerings to dead crocodiles. Historians still debate it. Some say it was fear, others say love, or maybe it was just hope in a form they could touch. You take one figurine into your hand. It's heavy, earthy. It smells faintly of time, and without meaning to, you hold it to your chest. Like maybe something in it might answer something in you. You remember something now, that humans have always made tiny things to carry their giant feelings. Maybe that's what all this has been. Every tablet, every temple, every whisper in the dark. Just ways to hold what's too much to carry alone. You place the figurine back carefully. You nod to the silent crowd of ancestors watching from their shelves, and you rise. There's another exit, barely visible behind a curtain of dried reeds. You part them gently, step through, and find yourself standing beneath a ceiling painted with stars, each one placed by hand, each one flickering with the gentlest pulse as if sighing light. They don't try to mimic the real night sky. They don't need to. This is not a copy. It's a memory of stars. One you didn't even know you had. One that's always been waiting here. For you. You walk beneath them slowly, like you're afraid your footsteps might stir the constellations. You're not tired anymore. You're not lost. You're just here. The soft hush of the air is a lullaby in itself. And with each step, the painted stars glow a little warmer, a little softer, like they recognize you, like they remember who you were when you first looked up at them. before you had words for longing or endings or grief, before you had to explain yourself to anyone at all. You smile, the stars smile back, and without needing to ask, you already know there is nothing here that wants to hurt you, only to hold you as gently as the dark. You walk beneath the painted stars, not hurried, not slow, just present. The hallway has grown impossibly quiet now. Not dead, not cold, like the temple itself is curled up beside you and exhaled. The kind of silence that only happens after everything has been said and everything has been heard. Your footsteps are barely audible, your breathing sounds like it belongs here, and ahead, finally you see it. A chamber. The last one. You think not because it feels final, but because it feels like home. Like the space at the end of a song where the last note still hums in the air. You enter. And what you see is simple. No scrolls, no statues, no pools, no fire, just a single bed. A low stone platform covered in soft woven linen, pale, clean. There's a thin pillow made from reeds, wrapped in cloth, and beside the bed a small table, on the table a scroll, unopened, no string, no wax, just waiting. And next to it, a small carved crocodile, no inscription, just a companion. You sit on the edge of the bed, you take the scroll, unroll it slowly. It says only this: you made it. A pause. Then, now rest. You don't cry, you don't speak, you just sit, holding the scroll in your lap, feeling it settle into your bones. You made it. Through the letters and the regrets and the thank yous, through the rooms of silence and sorrow and softness, through all the weight that wasn't yours and the weight that was, through the questions with no answers and the answers you no longer need. And now you are here. You lie back on the bed. The pillow meets your neck like it's always known the shape of your head. The linen is cool, kind, and as you close your eyes, you feel it. Something rising inside you, gentle and slow. A sense of being held. By the temple, by time, by the thousands of other travelers who passed through this place, whispering their truths to stone and river and crocodile. You feel your breath slow, you feel the muscles behind your eyes begin to loosen. You feel yourself drifting, not away, not apart, but deeper. Into a rest earned not by exhaustion, but by release. Somewhere you hear the softest voice, maybe yours, maybe not. It says, nothing more is required of you now. You smile and let go. Let your thoughts flow like the letters on the river. Let your breath fade into stillness. Let your name be folded into silence. Not lost, not erased, just gently quieted. The stars above you don't move, they wait. And you sleep. Not to escape, but to arrive. Not alone, but known. Not gone, but becoming of Section 29. One final part remains. The final part begins in silence. Not the silence of endings, but the silence that comes after deep sleep, when the world is still holding its breath, waiting to see what you'll choose next. You are waking. Not suddenly, not with alarm, but slowly, gently, like a candle remembering its flame. You feel your body before your mind, the softness beneath you, the quiet around you, the shape of the temple not holding you now, but releasing you. You open your eyes. The chamber is still dim, still peaceful, but something has changed. You've changed. You sit up. The scroll you read before, you made it, now rest, still lies beside you, but now there's something new on the table. Another scroll, unopened, untitled, but this one, and it's meant for you. No guidance, no prompt, just space. You pick it up, not to write in it yet, but to feel its weight, its possibility. You look around the chamber, the bed, the carved crocodile, the stars on the ceiling that watched over your sleep. They haven't disappeared, they're just quieter now, satisfied. And for the first time, you feel something entirely different from all the emotions that carried you here. You feel ready. You step down from the bed, stretch your fingers, your neck, your voice. You walk softly toward the exit, not because the journey is over, but because it's no longer being carved in stone. From here, you write it. The hallway ahead is brighter and shorter. You step through it and out, and you are outside the temple, back beneath the real stars. But somehow, they look familiar now, as if the painted ones inside taught them how to see you better. You're still holding the scroll, still not writing, not yet, because for now, walking is enough. You follow the path down from the temple's entrance. The stones beneath your feet are warm from sun. The breeze carries the smell of river reeds and fresh earth. In the distance, a village, a fire being started, a child laughing, a dog barking at nothing. life. You pause one last time and look back at the temple, and in that moment, you understand something simple and perfect. It was never about the god. It was never about the crocodile. It was about the truth that writing something down changes you, even if nothing else changes. It was about letting yourself be heard, even by stone, even by no one. It was about choosing to carry forward only what you want to keep. And you have chosen. You smile. The scroll remains in your hand, still blank, but not empty, because now you know it will begin when you do, when you speak softly to someone who needs it, when you forgive quietly without needing to be right, when you laugh unexpectedly, when you sit beside someone in silence, when you tell the truth just once and let it live. Every moment from here on is part of your letter, written not in ink but in living. You walk, the stars follow, and far behind you, inside that temple of dust and patience and echoes and sleep, your old words rest peacefully, folded like hands in prayer. They no longer belong to you. They don't have to. You're writing something new now. End of script. Sweet dreams.